Hello everyone, my name is GamePango21. Today we're looking at a video by one Harman Smith. I know that I normally take like a little bit longer to introduce this stuff, but I guess what I'm really doing is I'm trying to get out more content more frequently, and given that now I actually only have a few days to record and edit videos, guess what? I now have school and things that I have to worry about. Damn it, that sucks. Oh well, anyway, I'm still going to be trying to pump out as much content about this as possible, talk about certain aspects, and yeah, hopefully I don't actually get into the sort of, well, things that I have to do. Anyway, so let's talk about Harman Smith. What has he gotten into today? Well, there's a couple videos that I have lined up. One that I'm going to record for this one, and one that I'm going to do next time, maybe, sort of. But this one was the one that I saw a lot of other people starting to cover, and I wanted to hop on top of this as quickly as possible. So we'll keep it brief and say that he is just talking about the Steam Deck. Now, if you follow my Twitter, links down in the description, by the way, or I think like at least the @ button, at least the @ I really should link my Twitter down there too. But if you follow me on Twitter, you'll know that I, of course, also have a Steam Deck, and if you've watched my previous video, which I will also link in the description, maybe, if I remember to, then you will know that I find the Steam Deck 100% fine. And it's really, really good. It has a lot of really good features and is basically just another computer that I tend to take alongside with me, you know? And it's become part of my more mobile setup, and in all honesty, it's totally worth the amount of money that you pay for it. And yeah, it's a little bit more expensive than, say, a Switch or in some contexts. At other places, it works so, so much better, in my personal opinion. But yeah, anyway, that's neither here nor there. Gotta keep this brief because we want to cover this whole thing in its entirety. So, let's let's watch The Steam Deck is a complete and abject failure.
Hello, everyone. This is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of I, the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful, Rabbit Hole, King Dio, Lauren Frey, Grim Clover, Internet Blood Sports, and the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon.
Okay, so we'll first get into the fact that this guy is an author, and let me just say, I've never heard of Harman Smith or any of the books that he's actually written, which is the weird part about that whole thing, because he just listed off an entire half of a bookshelf's worth of books, and none of which I've read. Yeah, and just like he continues to do this, and from what I can tell, and from what I've heard around the internet and things, his books aren't any much better than his videos, really. So yeah, but he's talking about Review Tech USA. Ooh, what did Review Tech USA say?
So, Review Tech USA made an interesting statement on live stream yesterday evening, I believe it was. When did I watch this? It was like 4 or 5 o'clock. I have no idea what it was. So I tune in for 5 seconds to ask him why he hates Nintendo so much, and he's talking about the Steam Deck, specifically the reality of the Steam Deck, specifically the fact that it can't run Halo Infinite at the frame rate that he wants. It's like under 30 FPS or something. He's calling it like unoptimized. He's saying it doesn't run well. He uninstalled Halo Infinite. Updates don't help. The game just seems completely unplayable on Steam Deck. At least that's like the gist of what I understood from him. Of what I
Okay, so interesting setting the scene here. I'm actually not sure if he actually did tune into this sort of video, nor do I care, but I had to pause it here because I need to create for fair use stuff. And I mean, if you're just asking that, I don't get why the Steam Deck like that is a failure. I mean, in all honesty, it does make a little bit of sense that Halo Infinite doesn't run too well on a Steam Deck above 30 FPS because again, that they're probably running like a port of the game from the console or something like that. I don't fucking know, but the game itself of Halo Infinite has just kind of not really been in the best of places concurrently. So, yeah. Anyway,
of what I understood him to be saying. So this was a really interesting tidbit for me to hear because, first of all, this is Rich pulling back the curtain a little bit, talking a little bit about the problems of the Steam Deck, a platform that was supposedly going to be the next iPhone. Like that was ridiculous.
I don't know if did he even say that it was going to be the next iPhone? If he did, I think that he's both correct and incorrect at the same time, saying that, oh, it's going to be the next iPhone, i.e., it's going to be another big technology push thing. Yeah, it's a big technology push thing, but that doesn't mean that it's the next iPhone in 100% times. Well, whatever. If he did say that, sometimes people talk shit about their mounts, and I'm not going to confirm nor deny that because while I do like Review Tech USA more often than not now, um, calling him out in this manner is kind of a stupid way to do this. So, but yeah, um, to go on to his point, is like he's pulling back the curtain of how bad the Steam Deck is what I think his point is. No, just because one game doesn't run really well on the Steam Deck doesn't mean that all games on the Steam Deck run terribly. For example, I have run games like, well, I haven't tested out Elden Ring, but I know that that's Steam Deck verified, and I know that Rich did that, or other people have done that, where they've run that through the Steam Deck. But I've run tests in my previous video, if you remember some of the tests that I ran. Not only did it run some of the games on it just absolutely perfectly, no frame drops or anything, but it ran games like Spider-Man Remastered, the PS4 version, my mistake. Whenever that came out, the Insomniac one. I recently replayed the entirety of Sunset Overdrive, which also had a lot of the trappings of like the Xbox stuff, and that still ran perfectly fine. Yes, it ran a little bit hot, but at the same time, it's running a basically AAA game natively on the deck itself. Like, I was even running some of those games off of a micro USB. No frame drops, no nothing. It entirely ran perfectly fine.
That's when he said it. But now, like seeing him, one of the big things, one of the big arguments in favor of the Steam Deck was that it was going to be it was going to be able to play the games that the Switch would be too weak to handle. But with Halo Infinite not running well, confirmed to not be running well by a supposed tech expert at Review Tech USA, like that narrative is dead. And I am well aware that's also the case with like a a variety of other games, especially those that are emulated.
Yes, because it's usually the emulated games that's the problem, not the emulator itself that's the problem. I myself have emulated a lot of the older versions of older Nintendo games. I've made this very clear. I've made sure that it's all legal. I can't buy them for anything or play them natively on my thing anymore, and I don't own a Switch. I will say this up front and personal, I have done this completely and utterly legally, and to make sure that I only was downloading games that ran perfectly. Yeah, there are some games there that didn't run too well, but that's because it was the emulator problem, not the problem with the game itself or the ROM itself that I got it from. To be clear, though, there is some problems just with specifically emulation, because emulation is a lot of moving parts. It's not just the emulator, it's also the ROMs, where you download the ROMs, this, that, and the other thing. That's fairly certain and fairly straightforward to anyone who knows anything about emulation. But just because one game, i.e., one specific example, doesn't run too well on a Switch, doesn't mean that there aren't like hundreds of other games that run perfectly fine. Like I said, Spider-Man Remastered, Steam Deck verified. That's a Sony first-party AAA game that runs very, very well on the Steam Deck, and you can even run it in the regular mode, not just like being plugged in or having extra power to it. Elden Ring also runs perfectly prominently on the Steam Deck as well. It runs flawlessly from what I've been told, and again, it's one of those games that just really, really is nice to have. Again, Sunset Overdrive, like I said before, another perfectly cromulent 3D or platformer that works 100% fine. I had no issues. I completed the entire game, including all of the DLC that came with it. And yeah, certainly there might have been some frame drops, and I might have had to maybe have turned the Steam Deck off to have it cool off because it was running super, super hot and I didn't want to melt the thing. That's not necessarily a problem with the game itself. It ran perfectly fine.
That are emulated. People who are saying that they're emulating Switch games like before launch date are full of shit. You know, like lots of people are getting called out for this on 4chan. Like I saw a comment the other day where someone like tried to start like a Steam Deck emulation thread. What are you decking? And then like somebody pointed out like, why are you in the very first room of the game? Like it becomes like readily obvious that it's not possible to get past like certain sections of the game, get past the first room or the title screen even without like the game crashing or like having some kind of stuttering or.
I get it. I don't get it.
Source, please. I think that this meme right here will probably sum it up the best.
Nice argument, Senator. Why don't you back it up with a source?
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
Anyway, moving on.
Major issues that make the experience not worthwhile at all and it inferior to the legitimate Nintendo Switch version. All right, like people don't want to admit this, but Nintendo Switch is superior to Steam Deck.
Shut up, bitch! Oh my god!
And currently we're kind of in that like denial phase, I think, where like steampunks, the deckers or whatever the fuck they're calling themselves now, like they are in complete denial about the fact that the Steam Deck is a failure. Sales aren't impressive. Software retention isn't impressive. Its library is not impressive. It can't play all the games on Steam. And I think that's a really big thing. That like the Steam Deck, a platform that was supposed to be like a handheld gaming PC that can play every Steam game on the go, cannot run everything on Steam. You're not even getting into like the emulation or like the piracy or any of the weird shit people are doing. No, like.
Okay, so that was a lot of points, so let's just break it down. His main point is that you will not be able to play every game on Steam. That's true. They never said that you would be able to play all the games on Steam. That was never advertised when they were talking about this whole thing. I mean, do you not know the Steam rating system where certain games will play but will have problems with it and they will list out those problems? Certain games will have certain games are not playable, but like are unverified, and you're not sure if you can play them. Some games you cannot play at all because they're just not supported by Proton. Proton itself does an amazing thing. Like for example, Spider-Man Remastered, like I said, been using as the example the entire time. It is perfectly deck verified, and I can play the game without issue. However, Sunset Overdrive, another game that works perfectly fine and on my Steam Deck, says that it's not supported at all. Or it says that it's not supported, or it says that it's unverified whether or not it is supported, and I played through the entire game, no issues, no problems, no nothing, and it completely worked fine. Just because it says that it doesn't always run the game correctly doesn't mean that it's because the game itself just doesn't run. It just means that the game just has one or two small issues that might need addressing or by certain people. It's not the fact that the game itself, like no one ever said that you could play like every game on this thing. You could probably only play a certain amount of games, but to play literally every game on this Steam Deck, no one ever said that, especially considering the fact that they have a rating system that says, hey, these are the games that you can play, these are the games that you can play but also have issues, these are the games that you cannot play no matter what we do, and here are some of the other games that we can't, that in turn we don't have this to do. And in all honesty, it's stupid because there is a really bad example of one game that you can't play, not because it's not playable on the deck, it's perfectly prominently playable in the deck, it's just that they just don't care, the developers, Bungie, just don't give a shit, and they don't want to play the game, that being Destiny 2, of course. And they see that as like a threat to their whole cheating system, and in all honesty, that's kind of stupid and upsetting, and, you know, that's completely out of our hands. But no one ever said that you can play literally all the games on the Steam Deck or anything like that, and you're saying, like, oh, it's not as good as Nintendo. Sir, we can play literally most AAA games, I mean, on the Steam Deck. Do you have Spider-Man? Do you have Spider-Man remastered on your fucking Switch, bro? Do you have, say, Elden Ring on your Switch, bro? Do you have Sunset Overdrive on your Switch? Do you have, I don't know, Squad on your Switch? I don't think you can actually play Squad. I haven't tested that on the Steam Deck. Those other 3 games that I listed, you can play on the game, your Steam Deck. Those other 3 games you can play on your computer. You can't play those games on your Switch. They are too powerful for your Switch, dude. Yeah, you are saying, oh, well, Nintendo's still really good because you can play all of the Nintendo games on there. It's like, yeah, you can play all of Nintendo's games emulated on your PC as well as on your Switch. Or not as well as on your Switch or as well as on your Steam Deck. All of that is possible. The Steam Deck is still a verified computer. And everyone that I've shown it to are like, wow, this is actually really cool, this is really nice. And because I explained it to them and showed it to them, rather than just like telling them that, oh yeah, you can do this and this and this and this, they're like, wow, this is really cool. In fact, I convinced someone to get into a reservation because I was able to show him about it. To be fair, sir, yes, this Switch is not as good as a fucking Steam Deck. Full stop. The specs aren't as good. The functionality isn't as in depth. The entirety of the only thing that the Switch has really over the Steam Deck is that it's lighter and that it has its Joy-Con whatever the fuck. But those are basically just gimmicks. The Steam Deck is bigger, it's bulkier, sure, but that means that it has more power. I've gotten the Steam Deck dummy hot, but only because I've been playing AAA games at a solid like 30 to 40-ish frame rate. I don't know, I never checked. But from like high settings, all this good stuff, and in total, the game itself ran perfectly fine. Yeah, sir, there's going to be problems because it's a PC, more or less. But at the same time, it's just so fucking stupid to say that, oh yeah, it's a bad sales number. Dude, this thing came out like a few, like this year, more or less, and the reason why is because they've had problems getting things out to there. And yeah, it hasn't been out as long as the Switch has, and they are impressed by the fact that they are trying to keep up with it, and they are ramping up production on that whole thing. Like, you don't keep up with the fucking news, bro. You just don't keep up with the fucking news, dude.
You will not be able to play every game that's on Steam on your Steam Deck. And I think that's like downright pathetic, honestly. Like, really? Valve couldn't have released a console, a platform that could run everything currently on Steam. I don't understand where was the logic in that. And I also don't understand why it's not something that's like become controversial in the community, because it is true. It is like the reality of the situation. The Steam Deck cannot compete with Nintendo Switch. It doesn't have like the capacity to run emulators or to like run the big AAA games. There's no reason to own one over a much more affordable Nintendo Switch with its own exclusive lineup of games. There's no reason to own a Steam Deck. Like, if you need to play Steam, like, your ideal choice would be your own gaming PC.
Ah, yes, there is no reason to own one. Instead of the fact that you can get Steam Deck verified Elden Ring, Spider-Man Miles Morales is coming out. I'm pretty sure you can also play God of War on there. Some of the big AAA games are Steam Deck fucking verified, bro. You're saying that it's not as good as a Switch? You cannot even fathom how interesting it is to play those AAA games on the go while you're taking a shit. Like, you don't get it. You're like, oh, you can't play all the AAA games. Yeah, you can't play all the AAA games because sometimes those games require too high of specs, but the majority of them fucking don't, dude. Like I said before, Spider-Man Remastered, you can play it on the Steam Deck. Again, it is Steam Deck verified. It doesn't require that much more power than the Steam Deck has, or it requires the power of a PS4, which is what the fuck it has. You cannot play any of the AAA games to the same specifications on your Switch, regardless of what you want to say. Plus, the Steam Deck is not that much more expensive than a new Switch. If you compare the prices, I think that the lowest end model is like a 64 gigabyte of storage for the Steam Deck, which can do like smaller games because of like storage things, but you can upgrade the storage on it. You can't upgrade the storage on a Nintendo Switch, really. You can't have you can get like micro USB stuff, which you can do the same thing for the Steam Deck. You're basically saying like, oh, it's not as important and it's not a controversy that you can't play all the games on Steam, which, yes, it's been known for fucking months and possibly even like a year at this point that you can't play all the games on Steam. Why? Because not all the games are on Linux. Linux is the operating system of which this operates on. You can run Windows on it, but it's a sucky product to run Windows on because Windows itself is not made for the Steam Deck. It's made for actual processing computers or bigger and higher end computers. That's why Linux was used. That's why Proton was used, to try and get as many of the ports over to the Linux platform as possible. They don't rely on fucking Windows, bro. If they relied on Windows, they would be handcuffed to the fact that they couldn't even think about releasing something like this, which is why a lot of their games are compatible with it. Yeah, certainly. Now, you can't play every fucking game on there. But again, that was made very, very, very apparently clear. You cannot play all the games on this. This is just like... damn, I'm getting angry again. Why do I have to get angry at every video? Jesus.
Like, the Steam Deck from the get-go seemed like a piece of hardware that was designed to like annoy Nintendo fans, right? Like that's kind of what this all boils down to, is that like PC gamers were salty that like Nintendo fans were like going out, meeting girls with their Switches, and while they stayed home and jacked off the hentai, whatever, on their like $2,000 gaming rigs, right? Like, they were jealous, they were salty, so they just
Oh, you're serious. Let me laugh even harder.
really tried to hype this thing up, try to meme it into relevancy, and it just didn't work. And that it's kind of curious to me, because it really does feel like PC gaming, the steampunks, like they are like a dying breed. I don't understand why anyone would pay for a game on Steam when you could like get a proper copy on Nintendo Switch. You have the option for like physical, you have like more versatility, you have like better variety of choice, like a selection of games.
I've got a peer-reviewed study right here that says... says you're a pussy.
Like, there was no reason, really, to prefer PC over Switch unless you're a blind, dedicated Valve fanboy.
Excuse me? Mr. Kettle, Mr. Pot called. He says you're black!
Sorry, I basically laughed through the rest of that whole bit. Like, oh my god. You know, sometimes when you see just the amount of sheer joy that Harman Smith can bring, because he's such a just not a smart individual. It's funny. It's so funny. Yeah, we have more flexibility because we can buy physical games and we can do this and we can do that. Cool. Good luck enjoying Spider-Man on your Switch. Good luck enjoying Elden Ring on your Switch. You did manage to get The Witcher 3, a Wild Hunt, I believe, The Witcher 3 or The Witcher 2, one of the two games. One of the Witcher games, that's pretty solid. It looks like absolute dog shit, and I'm fairly certain I can also play it on my Switch at a higher frame rate and better resolution and whatnot. Pretty cool. I mean, I can more or less stream my game from my computer to my Steam Deck and vice versa, and even use it as a controller, as well as like a combine it in and make it like a Wii U, where I can actually probably turn off the monitor, or well, I probably can't turn off the monitor, but I can at least like have the monitor running or have the computer running using my Steam Deck. I can take it, sync it up to my computer, stream the game to the Steam Deck, and then walk outside to somewhere else and play my game. But good on you for making the attempt and saying like, oh, we're dying, even though more people are putting in reserve copies, and like the Linux versions of the games are up according to Steam charts and things. Yeah, totally, we're totally a dying breed. Because of just the fact that Halo Infinite doesn't fucking work. So yeah, you know what, Harman, I know that I got you mad and I yelled at you, but when you're correct, you're fucking correct. Totally, sarcastically, 100% correct you are. As if you couldn't tell, I'm being fucking sarcastic, because he's just so wrong. It's not even funny. Anyway, yeah, that's really all that I had to say on the matter. It's a fucking stupid video on the internet, and I wanted to cover it really quickly because, quite honestly, Harman Smith, man, the blindest Nintendo fanboy you will ever fucking see in your entire life. Bravo. Anyway, guys, that's gonna be enough for me today. My name is GamePenguin21. I kept you a little too long here, but anyway, peace off.
Before you go, sir, you have to sign